Good afternoon. My name is Eric Bengi of Egoli Estates Limited. We are a development company that specializes in mid to low-level developments. We've done developments on Gong Road, Imara Daima, and Ruaka. Our role in the Kenyan market, in the Kenyan real estate market, is that we actually developers. We put together interested homeowners, come up with a project concept, piece it together, and then develop it. Okay, we started our development way back in the year 2011. That's when we came together as a group of interested friends and professionals, and we did our first project in Ruaka. It was a good project, but there are quite a lot of take-homes from that, and ended up in a little bit of a mess, but which we managed to manage. Now, one of the approaches that we have taken in this market is to develop low-cost units or medium to low-cost units on a pre-sale model, or what we would call off-plan model. We come up with a project concept, we put it together, we invite prospective customers, we sell the idea to them, and we finance mainly through equity. We have also done a mixed financing model, but you realize that you don't carry on a lot of benefits to the end customers. On our Imara Daima project, it was a small project of about 24 units, ran very well within a short period of 1 year, and the project was done and completed. Now, comparing that with what we did in Ruaka, which was about 100 units, that ran for about 4 years. That is from 2011 to about 2016. And you can clearly see the difference. Then we proceeded on to Ngong Road. We are doing about 66 units, one-bedroom units, which we started last year, July. And we are at a stage that we can say we should be completing in December or January 2022. So one of the things to note about the diversity of all these projects is that size matters. The ground experience that you have matters, as well as your marketing experience. So the more you're able to push the sales, especially for the off-plan model, the better for you because of cash flows, especially where you are dependent on customers paying, and then you pay for the other services and for the contractor. Sometimes, if you are not careful, you may get into a few risks here and there. And it's always good to have a plan B for your financing, just in case your primary financing model doesn't quite really work out. At least you should have a backup plan. For us, the way we have done it over and over is the first thing that we procure is the property. We procure the plans, and we complete the entire concept. So the financing that we take from the customers is only for the construction, and we keep a backup plan just in case anything fails. Yeah. We keep on saying that you need to read 1,000 books to write one book, or you need to do a lot of research before you come up with a concept. So the first thing that we do is market research. You might think that you know a particular market very well, but when you go to the ground, you realize that the needs or the customer needs in that market are quite different from what you thought or what you had assumed. So that's the first thing to do, to demystify that myth. And what that does, as both a an advice as well as I mean, both as an advisory point as well as a mitigating point, is that when you have in the market the right product for your customer, the uptake is very, very quick. And we have experienced this in the projects that we have undertaken, because we end up selling everything before the project is complete. By the time we are 50% done with the construction, most 90 to 100% of the units are taken. So that's one point. The second point is that you need to do a financial appraisal at the very, very early stage. You need to evaluate whether your project is workable within the market budget or it is not workable. And again, when you go to the market, you take a feel of your customers. How much can they afford? What is the expectation? You can have a 5-star project in the middle of nowhere and there's no uptake, because that is not the kind of clientele that is in that market. So with that and with that kind of market intelligence, we're able to price our projects very competitively. And then with the financial appraisal, we work backwards and we ask ourselves, what is it that the customer can afford? So what sizes do you have? What kind of finishes do you put in there? But that does not mean that you put low quality finishes. You can be neat, you can be cheap. So again, that's another very important factor. We must evaluate whether the project is workable from the very onset. Some things in a project can be very expensive, again, depending on the market. For instance, if you are doing a basement parking, it is not a product per se for sale, because you're not going to sell that to your customers. Your concentration of sales is on the units. So you may end up burying a lot of money in the ground that does not give you any return. So again, that is another consideration. So the size of land that you are putting the project on, the kind of facilities that you put up there, they all come to advise on the price. Then thirdly, and experience has taught us this, is that modular units end up being much more economical than customized units. What do I mean by that? If you take a typical 1 or 2 bedroom unit and you replicate it on your 2-3 blocks, you realize that you end up with a lot of savings, especially on the finishes. You can very easily calculate how many number of tiles you need, what sizes, the pieces that you cut towards the edges can be used in the next room, and so on and so forth. So you end up with those economies, as opposed to where your building is customized. No one room looks like the other. We all know about the Italian cars, which are handcrafted. They are very expensive, and they are very expensive because of that customization. Similarly, on construction. Then come to the kind of finishes and the quality and the type of finishes that you put up in the building. Every customer needs some respect. They need something that is appealing to them, and they need something that is also functional. So from the design of your building, you need to think about functionality and how pleasant it looks. Putting a wardrobe with the same material, you can either do good workmanship or you can have poor workmanship. It doesn't cost you more if you are doing better workmanship. So from that, again, give the customer a good product, but at a very competitive price. Again, on the tiles, if you are given 10 tiles here, you not really differentiate which one is Chinese, which one is Spanish, which one is German, which one is came from Kenya. More or less, all of them look the same way. But how do you lay them on the floor? how do you arrange them? What are your patterns? And that's where your designers come in. Then the other very important thing is to have good consultants who are also economical in the mind, both from experience and from practice. For instance, you've gone to some buildings and you found a maze of columns on the parking, and you ask yourself, how are you even supposed to park? Every column that you see there costs money because it is brick and mortar. It doesn't make your building any more economical. If you have a good designer who has thought of the aesthetics beforehand, and you have, well lined up columns, the right size, well spaced, you actually end up having a very premium looking product, but still very, very cheap, but still very well grounded and very well supported as per the requirements. So these are all the factors that we consider when we are getting into a project to make it economical and appealing. Let me say this, consultants are the engine of any project. They can make you or they can break you. For instance, and let's start with the engineers. There's a lot of engineering mathematics that you need to do for a building. Yes, we've heard of buildings collapsing in this town. It's not a pleasant thing. And to be honest with you, is I think one of the most expensive things that you can ever experience. Can you imagine this person who has put up their building up to 10th floor and it collapses? How much money had they put in? How much is that loss? So there's really no advantage in doing shortcuts. So get the right consultants, get experienced and qualified consultants. It doesn't pay to take any shortcuts. Secondly, in terms of how you lay out your building, as I was mentioning, the columns, the alignment of the pillars and so on and so forth, all these things come to economize your construction. If you have a modular building from bottom to top that looks the same, with modular units the same size, again, that has its advantages, as I mentioned earlier. And more so, from a marketing perspective, it is much, much easier for the customers to choose one unit that looks the same on all the floors, as opposed to where you have different sizes, where you have different where you have units with different orientation from on different floors. So these are some of the things that we think really add a lot of value. Then in terms of again the quality of the consultants that you have, I keep on saying that water is more dangerous than fire. If in your building you got a mess in your plumbing works, trust you me, it's the ugliest thing that you can ever have, and it can end up be one of the most expensive things to do. If you are to come and repair back that, hacking the columns to remove the pipes and to change the pipes is quite expensive. Sometimes it's even dangerous for the building itself. So from the onset, engage the right consultant, engage qualified consultants, and engage experienced consultants. At least they are minded on the commercial aspects of the development. And by and large, you'll have advantages not only for you as a developer, but also for the end customer who buys your building. In any economic market, equity is always the cheapest mode of financing. And the same thing replicates in the construction and building industry. Financing from the banks, it's a good option, but it is much more expensive. And let me give you this example. If you went to your friend and you borrowed them 100,000, 3 months down the line when you return the money, more likely than not, you'll just return it as 100,000. There's no interest. But banks are in the business of selling money. Actually, that is their bread and butter. So when you compare that, if you have borrowed from your friend, or as opposed to if you have borrowed from the bank, there's a clear difference. Then secondly, when we talk of off-plan models or the pre-sale model, what we mean is that you collect money from your customers, they pay money in advance, utilize the same money for the development. It is actually a free loan, if I may put it that way. So it ends up being very, very cheap. And if you look at most of our developments, actually our developments, we have priced them very, very fairly, comparing with the market, because we are able to collect monies from the customers in advance. Now, the only tricky bit about that is if your customers do not end up adhering to the repayment schedule, it can get you into a big mess if you don't have a plan B. So you need to put in place mechanisms for your prompt collections. You need to put in mechanisms for evaluating the right market price depending on how the customer is paying. One customer will pay you upfront, the other customer will pay you in installments, the other customer will partially pay cash and partially take finance. Again, their prices differ because of the cost of value for money at the time that it comes in. We have used both off-plan financing model as well as debt financing. And our experience was that debt financing was quite expensive, but we always keep it as our plan B. Just in case one customer delays, you do not want to delay the other customers. So we keep both in place, and it has worked out well. Very well, yeah. Now, in any development project, you have the hierarchy of the hierarchy of consultants, and you'll always have the architect as your lead consultant. Then on the other side, you'll also have the contractor being the man on the ground, and of course for you, the developer on the other side. Now, in our communication management, we usually have a meeting every 2 weeks. One of the first meeting is a site meeting, and the second meeting is a site inspection. So in a month, we have the opportunity to look at what has been done and go to each and every floor or each and every space that has been constructed within a particular period. Secondly, during the site meeting, we review all the issues that emanate from the project. How is the contractor doing? How has the contractor progressed from the previous period to the current one, and so on and so forth. So the lead consultant, who is the architect, actually chairs the site meetings. On the other hand, the contractor chairs the site inspections, and they take you through each and every space, and you discuss whatever issues are coming up, and if there are any problems, you resolve them at that point. Then at the same time, both the consultants, the contractor, as well as the developer, we are on a common mailing group. If there are any items that need approval, we discuss in common, and it is passed through everybody. If it is samples which are being sent, we all have a view of it, and we approve very quickly. If there are any thorny issues, again, they are communicated in advance and early in time, and they are thrashed out as quickly as possible. Then the other communication that comes in is through the quantity surveyor, the architect, and the contractor. You need to keep on evaluating the project from stage to stage, see how much has been done, price it, and then also pay it off. Again, from that angle, the quantity surveyor is the client's representative or the developer's representative. On the other hand, the contractor is his own representative. So we allow them to review and interact with the level of construction and do those financial evaluations, and then they are paid. In case there are any discrepancies or any issues arising out of them, the first point of review is with the architect, and when the client is also called upon to mediate and listen to the grievances, we come in very quickly and we discuss and we agree on the way forward. So what we have encouraged in our projects is very open communication. If there are issues, the issues must be communicated through the architect so that you have one point of communication. And if there are any grievances between one consultant and the other, or one consultant and the contractor, again, it is communicated through the architect and we discuss it openly on the table and we agree on the way forward. So that way it has worked out very well for us. And we keep on saying it is very important to have a harmonious team. You don't have to agree at all times, but you need to work in harmony. That way, it is for the advantage of the developer and the end customer. Now, as I said, when we are starting off a project, we start by the market research. You evaluate what is your clientele, what is the market price, what is the competitive price for that market. Then you re-engineer your product backwards to give the customer exactly what they need. When we are doing our financial appraisal, we look at all the costs from beginning to the very end, including projected costs until the day of completion of the project. Most of the things you're able to quantify upfront, like the cost of construction end to end, and my preference has always been on fixed contract developments, where we pre-negotiate an agreed amount with the contractor for a turnkey project. Okay. Then from our administration side, we can evaluate what will be our end costs for the period of the project. You also look at the works program and give yourself some leverage so that you're able to capture your costs. Then, when you put all that on paper, you're able to work out a bottom line and you see whether there is actually a return. We also don't work for free. We need to be paid a little bit. We put in a lot of time, we put in a lot of energy into this, and for every investor, you need some return. And you put your little markup. We believe in doing more than making too much in one small project. So, we look at the lifetime value of our customer. The customer that we started in project 1, 80% they'll be the customer in project number 2. 60% they'll be the customer in project number 3. And by project number 6, you'll actually expect them to be 90% the same customers. So again, looking at that, it is more advantageous to make little from project to project, and you price it moderately so that you can also offload your units in the market quickly. Then the other very important point to consider is how quickly are you able to offload the product in the market. There's no value in pricing your units so high and then you're stuck with them for 2-3 years. your money is locked. It's of no value. Have, as opposed to just pricing them a little bit moderately, maybe a little bit lower, and you have a larger market. And that has been our preference. For instance, in my current project, 66 units on Gong Road, I'm only remaining with 4 units 1 year down the line. I'm able to break even. I'm able to complete the project even without selling those ones. Yeah. Number one, I would actually encourage any new developer coming into the market first to learn from the existing ones. There are a lot of lessons to learn. There's a lot of experience to gain without making the mistake yourself. I think one time President Kagame said that learn from Rwanda. We went through a genocide. It is not worth anybody else going through the same thing, whereas we are living example here. Same case with this. Secondly, plan. And from planning, you need to do your market research. You need to do a lot of market evaluations. Go on the ground. Find out what is it that your customer needs. What is it that is appealing to them? What is it that they will take without any qualms? And the faster you give them a product that you're able to offload as quickly as possible, it makes a lot of sense. One of the things I've noticed in this market is that for projects that take too long, there's a tendency that customers also shun them away. I don't know what is the reason, but I guess that maybe nobody really wants to back. Nobody wants to back anybody who is not completing. Then, thirdly, and very importantly, please deal with people with a track record, consultants with a track record, contractor with a track record, lawyers with a track record. Because the experiences in this space, they matter a lot to the kind of product that you're able to deliver at the end of the day. If you get the wrong one, you may end up in a lot of mess. And always remember, as a developer, the buck stops with you. It is your development. If the engineer messed up in their calculations and the building collapses, it is your liability. It is not cheap. If the lawyer messes up with the registrations, again, it is your monkey to carry. So be very cautious. Deal with experienced and people with a track record.